Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is episode 279 for February 26, 2023. That's right, we're almost to the end of February. We'll hit March up here next. And I don't know, man. I don't know about you, DBQ, but the year is flying by, it seems to me at least. But
yeah, it really does seem like it, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Especially after the last week of crazy weather that we've had. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been something. So that voice and video is Mr. DBQhams. DB, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I mean, I'm glad to be here talking about games. It has been a long and busy week. I have downloaded the update for No Man's Sky, and I was so hopeful to get the Fractal update. PS5, wanted to try it, wanted to see some of the new pieces there. Just didn't get a chance to. So that'll be on my list next week, because I'll come back to it and be able to talk about that. But that was unfortunately, yeah.
Did you ever try that on the VR, the PSVR?
I tried it on PlayStation 4 VR. So not like, the new Fractal update comes with PSVR 2 updates. But yes, I did try it on VR. It was enjoyable.
Yeah.
It isn't a great resolution, but it was fun. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, like, as you know, you've kind of come back to it in and out over the course of many years. So it is. There's always something to kind of explore if you can dedicate the time to remember the systems.
Yeah.
As you right, if you leave long enough, it's like, oh yeah, what does this do, and where am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my issue the last time.
Yeah, I jumped in just for maybe 15, 20 minutes one day this week, and I was I was kind of just trying to figure everything out again, like you said. So I gotta sit down and play some serious time with it again. So just try to get used to it. Even though I had been playing not too long ago, but
that was only a couple months ago that you were talking about it. Yep.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens. I did go in and get some Twitch rewards though, so that was kind of nice because they actually opened up that section on the Switch side, so which was kind of nice. The what is it, Silver? I think it's called. Like when you go into the one space station, you can actually call out. I forgot what it was called. Atlas, I think.
Yeah, they did open up a couple of those areas for Switch owners now. Yep.
Yeah, so that's nice. All right, so unfortunately, Game Logic's not here tonight. He's going to take a little break. It's been a while, I think, for him since he's been off the air, but hopefully he'll be back next week. So let's jump into our main segment, our main news, GX Experience or Stories. I've got a couple of new games I actually played this past week. First one up is Atomic Heart that came out on Xbox Game Pass. I actually played it through the xCloud on... I did it both actually on my One X and my Series X. Excuse me. And so this is kind of first-person-ish, I should say ish, but first-person shooter. To me, it kind of seems like it's kind of like Bioshock-y.
It's very intentionally Bioshock. Even when they announced this back in 2018, they kind of couched it within the Bioshock Infinite type of gameplay and kind of iconography, imagery type of kind of tone is very much in that Bioshock.
Yeah, kind of like Bioshock. What was the one in the sky that you were kind of in the air?
Infinite, yep.
Yeah, Infinite, I'm sorry. I was going to mention that.
Yeah, so which is kind of more 10 years old this year.
Yeah, so. More colorful, not kind of dreary like the original Bioshock was. Actually, the first two, I believe, because they were both in Rapture.
Yeah, they were both set in Rapture. Yep.
Yeah, so kind of like I said, Bioshock, some Duke Nukem, just because I'll explain that in a second, and a little bit of Fallout series, just because of the kind of the animation stuff they use that I've seen a little bit of. Just kind of like little cartoony guys, kind of not really showing you stuff, but here and there, like I think in between the cutscenes, they kind of show like a little cartoon guy that kind of reminds me of the Fallout series. So you got kind of that dashed in there. But so I like a...
Well, yeah, and period-wise, like the 50s of Fallout is very much kind of, stylized, and this is taking kind of that 50s Russia stylized alternative timeline type of piece.
Yeah, kind of 1950s, like what the future would be. Yeah, kind of a thing. So I've only played like about an hour of it so far. I haven't played too much of it, but it's enjoyable, at least gameplay wise. The player that or the person that you're playing as, he's kind of annoying to me. He's a lot of that's where kind of the Duke Nukem comes in. Now Duke Nukem was, um, he was a little rough around the edges, and maybe
I think that's probably the most polite way that people
yeah,
have described Duke Nukem. Yeah, he's an acquired taste. He's a
yeah,
little rough around the edges, but
yeah. So this is kind of Duke
his
Nukem kind
mom
of
loves him.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of attitude, but kind of amped up to like 100 or so or 1,000. A lot of not that I'm like a prude or anything, but a lot of foul mouth language and stuff like that, and but it's kind of extreme. It's almost kind of like I know everybody loves Logan, the movie, and everybody praises it. I watched it and I liked it, but man, the swearing in there just seemed a little too much for me. Like not that I like my swearing,
Like when you're doing it just to feel mature,
yeah, just to
like,
do it because
yeah.
hey, this is a Marvel property, it's Wolverine, so and obviously, yeah, he's always been kind of R-rated even in the comics somewhat, but I mean they kind of took it up a notch, and this is what kind of like this guy plays as too. He's like I said, he's like swearing almost every other sentence, and just kind of that macho kind of attitude and stuff like that. And it's kind of weird, like you mentioned, this is like 50s area, 60s, Soviet Russia, or Russia, excuse me, and but he's talking like perfectly good English, but everybody else is like question that kind of like at least they give him like an accent or something. Now to be fair, and they kind of tell you this at the beginning, like he woke up at some point. They don't show that part, but he like woke up at some point in not too distant past, and he didn't know who he was. Maybe he's not Russian, that's possible. But but the gameplay wise, I'm trying to think. I think so far all I've really done is melee stuff, and I mentioned this too at the beginning of the show when we were talking. Like the intro is like super long, like where you don't even do anything at all. It's just like the story. Like it's kind of interactive a little bit. Like you can kind of look around at some points and you do a little tap this button here and there. But for the most part, you're kind of just on rails more or less, or you have to go this way, a certain area. So
Does it seem like it's really kind of trying to set a tone? It's less about engaging you, but more about kind of creating a sense of place. Kind of like in some ways what the BioShock openings do.
Yeah.
In terms of creating that sense of place.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to give you a little bit backstory on, like I said, on the guy itself, because they don't show his like how he came to be. He's already in the world. He's done like some missions or whatever for this organization that you're working for the government, whatever it happens to be. So he's kind of already established in the world. So I think they are trying to get that story part kind of bring you up to speed basically on what's going on. But like I said, gameplay wise, it seems fine. Like I haven't had any troubles with the gameplay. It doesn't feel weird or floaty or tankish or anything like that. It's pretty much first person shooterish kind of controls. So I was pretty accustomed to it. So the enemies in here so far are all I guess androids, robots types. So they're pretty strong, at least initially. And like I said, since I only had melee stuff, they're pretty much kicking my butt. You really have to do like all the dodges that the one dodge ability that you have so far. So you really got to rely on that for now, at least, or at least I was. But like I said, other than that, that's pretty much all I got to. There's some other. How can I put this? There's definitely an adult tone in this game when you get to the save points. I don't know if you read about those or
These with your Russian, the android, the female android.
Yeah, well, the first one I got to is just it looks like almost like a fridge, but it has a female voice. So and she's saying a lot of suggestive things. So while she's talking to you, so
yes, I've heard about that kind of the harassment of the save points. Yeah,
yeah. So like I said, then that's only in the first hour that I played so far. So we'll see if I kind of get more into it or not. I've been playing.
So this game is got some press over the week, but more so in terms of some of the country. Like I knew about the BioShock aspect of it, but this week it's gotten some additional press as the Ukraine, spokespeople for the Ukraine or the Ukrainian government have come out against the developer Munhead?
Munfish, yeah, I believe.
Munfish, yep. And for some pro-Russian imagery and support. Their studio is in Moscow, or one of their studios is in Moscow, is there, you've only been through the first hour or so, but in that kind of tone setting, are you seeing some of the things that are, does it feel, I guess, one, are you seeing some of the things that people are calling out? And does it feel any different than some of the place settings of Rapture? Or is it, I think it feels interesting, right? Like there is this, how much of it is using a historical setting within, to create a sense of space, which art can do, and how much of it is using art to promote a set of ideas. And I think that seems to be where that dialogue is. There's a friction point there within kind of the dialogue surrounding this game, at least in this first week.
Yeah, and I guess there's kind of two things that I've seen with that. So it was the one thing was them being backed by, like you said, the government or some faction of the government or some part of it. And then the other thing was something with what I just read, I think yesterday, was some of the animation, or there's a cartoon basically that it's a known cartoon. It's like a real cartoon that they used to use. I don't know. I guess back in the day, back in the 50s or 60s or 70s, whatever.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent of kind of Tom and Jerry,
Yeah.
or the same type of racial depictions, African American depictions that Disney Plus put warnings on for some of the old Disney characters, or
Right.
the
Yeah.
Warner Brother. It's having some of those caricatures, those racial stereotypes, and there, yes, in that
Yeah.
background.
So I guess supposedly that's when they show that, or you can watch that like during the save points. But I didn't see that yet. So maybe there's like I didn't see, like, I think it's supposed to be like on a TV or something. And I didn't see that like in that first room. Maybe I just didn't pay attention because I was jumping in.
And from what I've read about it, it's one of multiple episodes.
Yeah.
So if you're cycling through them,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah, I think that one they have come out and apologized for. There hasn't been any type of statement from the developer related to any of the Ukrainian Russia aspects of the kind of the dynamics there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I did. I read that too today. But also I understand like it's part of the government. Supposedly it's getting back. But this game was, I think, announced like even before I think the war even started.
Yeah, it was announced in 2018.
Yeah. So I mean, okay, like that's I don't know. I guess I'm kind of torn. Like, so it's one of those things. Like, people are always kind of torn about that kind of stuff. And but I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm kind of turned off a little bit just because of the main characters that you're playing. But I might try to just kind of go over a little bit more just to see if I do see any of that stuff. And some of the cartoon stuff, I think they said they were going to actually patch out, I believe, or try to, more likely. I don't know if they're going to remove everything or if it's just going to remove maybe those certain episodes where that stuff is in. I don't think they really said, but I'll have to see about that. But like I said, I'll probably at least try to take a look at it. I mean, technically I didn't buy it, sort of not, but did because it's part of the Game Pass for me, at least how I'm playing it. So obviously, yeah, I didn't buy it directly, but obviously there's a deals with the developer, excuse me, on that kind of thing. But I'll like I said, I'll try to give it some more time into it, and just because I just gameplay wise, I want to kind of get past like the melee stuff. Well, I'm assuming there's more like kind of
like looking at some of the trailers, looking at some of the videos from it, you do start to get some powers, whether they're electrical or fire. Very similar in that BioShock vein.
Yeah, and just kind of the aesthetic of the the future-ish layout of the land is kind of cool. Just the robots, and you kind of got these kind of cool cars and stuff. Not really hover cars, but they're little kind of old time like 50s, but they're little like more futurized and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'll keep plugging away at it a little bit at least to see just what's going on with it.
So what's the second game you've been playing? So if you only played an hour of this one, how much? So what's the other game, and how much time have you put into it?
So the second game is Sons of the Forest. This is on PC. I bought it on Steam. This is a sequel to The Forest from back, I think it was mid 20 teens, I believe, when that one came out, or maybe a little bit later. But yeah, this one just came out this past week, and I had been I had known about it, and I never played the original The Forest, So kind of survival, kind of horrorish, I guess. You gotta you're dropped in this wilderness, and you gotta make a base, and you gotta live off the land and all that kind of stuff. Kind of like most survival games nowadays. But there's these weird like kind of humanoid, kind of weird creatures. I guess they're supposed to be cannibals from the lore, from what I've heard and just from what I've seen. There's that aspect of it, and like I said, I was looking at it and I was like, maybe. But then my one friend that I usually play all these games with, different co-op games and multiplayer games, he was like, oh man, you have to get this, and we could play together. And there's another friend of ours, the two that had picked it up. So I was like, I'll pick it up. So I think it was only like $30, $40, so it was a little bit cheaper, on the cheaper end. So I picked it up. We were playing Friday night, and we played for quite a while. And actually, I think they had been playing for even before I got on, and we played at least like 4 hours or so, like straight. So they already had like kind of a base, and or at least.
Is there a PvP part to it, or is it, or is it survival and the game is spawning enemies? Or do you get some like the Ark aspect where you're fighting against other people?
Yeah, as far as I could tell, there's no PvP. It's all just PvE. So you just find the elements and find the different enemies on in the world. These weird humanoid creatures, whatever they are. And some of them are like really weird because there's like one enemy. Like most of them are like bipedal. They're walking around and stuff. Some of them they're bipedal, but they'll like jump on all fours and almost kind of like a gorilla and stuff. And then there's this one where it's like they're like joined at the hip. There's actually two different ones. There's one where they kind of join at the hip more or less, but they're always kind of like crawling around. And then there's this other one we saw kind of near the end of our play session where they're like kind of end to end basically. So there's just like the head's on the one end of the body, and they're kind of just like slinky around. Just how we described it. It was like, wow, that's a guy slinking around us. Let's get out of here. So that one was actually a little bit tougher enemy. We didn't even fight that one because he just like kept like one hitting us and we'd be down right away. So that's the one thing, like when you get hit or you don't die technically right away. You can get picked up by your teammates. So that's kind of nice. But like I said, they had like a whole base already kind of set up. They had this like walled off area with a little cabin that you can build, and you can build like different like setups to hold all your like different materials. So like the rocks and the sticks, and you can have like huge logs too for when you're building the fences in the log. It's a log cabin basically. So there's different things like that. So I was kind of just trying to get used to it. I got the basics pretty much down. So once we started doing that, and we kind of. That's the one thing I didn't really like is so they had like just regular doors down, but the enemies can just like come straight through those doors, which I guess we didn't realize. And then the one guy was like looking stuff up online because there's no tutorial at all, and this is an early access game too. I'll say that.
So what is it doing? I mean, you've played a number of these, so you have a nice piece of comparison. Outside of the kind of enemies, do you feel like is it scratching a different itch? Is it doing something different? Or is it kind of just the nature of putting you in a different world makes it feel a little different?
Yeah, I think it's the different world, and I haven't done too many, at least not with this group of friends, like co-op survival games. So that's kind of the nice part of it. And actually, my one friend, he doesn't usually play, like he doesn't play like Ark or like Minecraft or stuff like that. Or Rust, and Rust is a little bit different, I guess, but it's still kind of survival because there's PvP in that one too. But he doesn't play like those kind of games, so I was kind of surprised he liked this game. Like he was actually into it. I think it's maybe because it's PvE, like there's no PvP, like you're not getting like raided and getting your stuff all wrecked and stuff like that. So that's why I kind of jumped into this one, which normally I probably wouldn't have bought, maybe not, especially not right away and not in early access. I might have waited a little bit because it is kind of janky. Like sometimes the enemies get stuck in stuff, or there was a duplication glitch that we found when we were building. Actually, the enemies had knocked down part of our wall, so my one friend was trying to build it back up, and every time he went to put the log down, it just like duplicated it. So we had like 1 million logs at one point just because we saved it all up. So, and there's other duplication glitches too. I've read. Excuse me, just today that you can do. So obviously, early access, you got to button all that stuff up. So. But I mean, generally, it seems to be pretty positive from what I've seen online. Sometimes, like I was mentioning, like the enemies will walk through the door, so you have to build like this weird enclosure where you kind of wall off basically everything, and then you have to put like a rope on the outside of the outside of the base so you can get in, and then just like a ramp so you can get out. So, but once you do that, then like your bases are locked down. Like they can't even. Before too, they were like jumping over the walls, which was kind of weird. And now that since we did that stuff, that enclosure thing that we did, now they don't come in at all. So it's like okay, it's kind of weird. So there's just kind of goofy things like that. But like I said, early access, so you're gonna expect some weird stuff. But we kind of did all that, and finally we kind of got used to stuff. So we're starting to actually go around, kind of search around. There's like spots that to put on your GPS that you can kind of go and look at. So we're starting to do that before we get off. So hopefully we'll get to play again soon and explore a little bit more and see what else you can do. And I guess there actually is a storyline that you can follow also, instead of just like doing your own thing. So I'm assuming there's some kind of end game at some point. So we'll see. We'll have to see. But yeah, so
interesting. Yeah, that's adds a number of new wrinkles to it all.
Yeah. All right, so those were the two games that I was playing. Looks like you didn't get anything this week for yourself, so let's jump into the news stories. Excuse me. All right, so first up, the first news story I have is Microsoft and Nintendo signed a 10-year deal to bring Call of Duty to the Switch, or to Nintendo systems, I should say, not just the Switch. Excuse me. And of course, this deal all depends on if Microsoft actually acquires Activision. The Activision Blizzard deal goes through, so then they'll get Call of Duty. And they also mentioned in this article from Game Industry Biz that they'll try to bring some other games to the Nintendo Switch, which I think the only like Activision game I can think of right now on the Switch, maybe two, is Tony Hawk, and I think Spyro, or not Spyro.
Spyro, Crash.
Spyro Activision? Okay.
Yeah, right. So
I was thinking Crash,
if you're looking, the eShop does have a sale right now. So you'd say there's the Diablos, there's, yep, and
Overwatch, I suppose.
Overwatch, yep, yeah. And then the Crash, I guess Crash 4 and Crash Team Racing and Spyro. Yeah. So
I mean, I guess they're already bringing stuff over, so it's kind of weird that they kind of mentioned that, but I mean, maybe they meant older games, or I don't know.
I think this is really. They've announced this before. This was that they signed something legally. This, I think, is much more of a. It checks a box. It's a PR piece. It's something that when they go to testify in trials or hearings around the FTC or any other regulatory piece, that they can say that they have a legally binding agreement with another console maker to put this out, and they would offer the same to any other console maker, i.e. Sony. Yeah. So I think that this is a way to try to soften some of the concern that Sony is raising in terms of having about the deal. So whether it has any real teeth, I mean, it has teeth, but whether it makes any real difference about the merger is a whole different question.
Yeah, and they mentioned too in the article that I guess they did make a similar offer to Sony, but Jim Ryan told Game Industry Biz that the proposal was inadequate on many levels. So he didn't really expand on that part. It looks like there's a link there that you can kind of go to. I think that kind of goes to that. Maybe he explains a little bit more, but yeah. And I was going to ask you too if this was kind of all part of that. And I figured it kind of was. It's kind of their way of trying to get good, I guess, with the different factions there of the different government agencies and stuff. So, all right. Any other comments on that one? I think that was pretty straightforward.
No, I think that it's pomp and show, dog and pony show.
Yeah. So I'd be interested to see if this just goes through and then what we actually get on the Switch or future Switch systems, or Nintendo systems, because obviously, not the the most hardware intensive systems from Nintendo lately. So I wonder if they would just kind of port it as much as they could from whatever they're doing, whatever Call of Duty is that year, or if they'll try to do something totally different. So we'll see. Although I guess they really haven't done that in too long with the Call of Duty series, but maybe they can if they get with Microsoft, they can try different things. So we shall see.
Yeah, right. Or if they just bring over Warzone, or if they, or what do they try to bringing Call of Duty doesn't necessarily mean bringing the entire package. So we'll see what that looks like too.
It's true. Yep. All right. Up next, I have Valve tricked 40,000 Dota 2 cheaters into exposing themselves, which in turn got them all banned. So this happened. So basically, what was happening was these Dota users were, and they don't. One thing I don't like about the article is they don't kind of go into detail on what it exactly was, but they were seeing data within the game that obviously is not supposed to be seen by like a normal user when you're playing the game. But they didn't actually go into details, at least not in this IGN article, on what that actual data was. So what Valve did, so when they found out this was happening, what they did was they created a patch with a honeypot, is what they call a section of data inside the game client that would never be read during normal gameplay, that could be read if people were using these exploits or these cheats. So obviously all these 40,000 people each saw this section, and then they were, I'm assuming, immediately banned, or banned at some point not too long after they accessed this section. So, and then along with this, any professional players will be banned from all Valve competitions in the future, so, or future events. So it was kind of, I just thought it was kind of a a different article than we normally see.
Yeah, right. The way that it's discovered by kind of outing themselves.
Yeah.
In the process. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was kind of cool. Then we get the you always see these articles with people hundreds of thousands of people getting banned from whatever, but they never kind of go into detail, and they didn't into a little bit of detail in this article, but like I said, they didn't say exactly what the data was that they were actually seeing, like what it was like. But I'm assuming it was obviously something that could give them the advantage, so it was kind of cool. All right, up next, actually that's it for the news. We just had those two articles. Unless you had anything that you wanted to talk about.
No, I think we had the Sony State of Play this week. Spent a lot of time with Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. We got some announcements of a variety of PSVR 5 games. A new announcement of a game, Humanity, by the developer of Luminous and Tetris Effects. I think some more Street Fighter 8.
Yeah, I think there was a few characters announced on that one.
Yep. We got a release date of Baldur's Gate 3 coming at the end of August. Wayfinder, which is a new game from Digital Extremes. So, lots of things that we knew about, but a little more time with a couple of these. So, nothing, no real huge surprises. I think you get some new stuff related to PSVR, which makes sense since they're trying to bolster that platform that just launched. So, I don't know that there's a whole lot here because it's still pretty early on a lot of these. I'm kind of, interested in Wayfinder, in part because Digital Extremes has some pedigree there with Warframe, and so the kind of the long-term support of the kind of the co-op multiplayer type of adventure definitely seems like could have some legs for them. So yeah, that's about it.
So most of these are multi-console, right, or multi-system, I should say.
Yeah, I think there's. I don't know that there's a ton.
Other than obviously the PSVR 2 stuff. But.
Yeah, outside the PSVR 2, I think Goodbye Volcano High might be exclusive, or at least console exclusive, right? I think that's the same as. I'm sure that probably Humanity, at least right now, Humanity is only announced for PS5, 4, and the 2 VRs. So it might come eventually too. So no, a lot of these are not necessarily console exclusive. I mean, they spent a lot of time on Suicide Squad. They spent time on Destiny. These are not going to be console exclusive experiences, but they are getting some support in terms of marketing with PlayStation.
And is Street Fighter 6 exclusive, or is that multi-console? Because weren't they funding some of that, or?
I really don't know.
Thought maybe I was thinking of something else. Okay, that's right. Okay. And then I guess the other big thing with Suicide Squad was that it's online service type of game. So, and well, you definitely got to be online for both single and obviously multiplayer. So,
Yeah, that got a little bit of press there about the always online aspect of Suicide Squad v. the Justice League. Or no, it looks like it's scheduled for Street Fighter 6 is scheduled for multi-platform.
oh, it is multiplayer. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking they had some part of that.
Well, I think they've historically,
Or maybe they
Capcom and Sony have
or
done a lot of promotion stuff together. Yeah, and I think 5 had some very specific pieces there.
All right, cool. All right, let's jump into our round robin here. The only other game I've pretty much been playing, I played a little bit of Rocket League and Fortnite this past week. I think Fortnite's actually going to finally change their season coming up here. I think next weekend, I believe, is the change of season. Or actually, I think it's during the week, the following week, not this week, but the next week, which is weird because they haven't done like a weekday change in a while, which has me to believe that maybe they won't do any kind of big event because usually the big events they'll do on the weekends. But still continuing on with Hogwarts Legacy, playing on the PC still. Just going through the story. And, actually, this is probably one of the first games in a while that I've actually kind of followed the story a little bit more because it seems like you kind of open up a little bit more of your magic and stuff when you do that. So I think I have like maybe 2 or 3 more different kind of spells that I can actually learn. We got pretty much all the rest of them already unlocked. So. And then you can upgrade those with the little kind of skill tree they have in the game. So I'm kind of doing that, and then I'll just do like side stories here and there. But pretty much kind of going through the story right now, and I don't know. Every time I think it's like, oh, I've kind of seen maybe I've seen everything, or at least kind of know where everything is going to go, and then kind of throw stuff at you. I kind of mentioned this last week, where it's, they have the customizable room now in the house or in the school that I can customize, and there's all kinds of the other different kind of spells that I didn't even realize. I don't know if these are ever in the actual Harry Potter, movies and stuff or books, but just kind of different, almost kind of like force powers, really, basically, from what I've seen, like push and pull and
the lifting and the kind of suspending and
kind of freezing and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. Just kind of, I still have a lot of fun with this game. So I think it's just the combat, just in general, just because of the magic theme of it. So it's just kind of cool. I haven't really seen this in a game, well, at least that I've played. At least I'm sure there's a ton of other games that might use magic, obviously, but I don't know. It just seems different in this game for some reason. Just more enjoyable. I think the one aspect too that I like is the block or the guard, where it basically just puts like a protective bubble around you. But I mean, you could just use it pretty much any time. Like there's not like a cooldown for that, as far as I can tell. So it's kind of nice. So you can kind of tell like when you're about to get hit by something, so you just hit that button and boom, it pops up. So it's kind of nice, and you can do some counters with that too, if you can time it right. So it's just kind of cool. I'm really enjoying the game, so I'm gonna keep on trucking with that during the week. I don't know. Were you interested in that game at all? Have you played it?
I will be honest and say no. I do not have a whole lot of interest in it. Right? Like I like what you're describing. I think the combat and the adventure piece sounds pretty fun. I've enjoyed the worlds. I think like there are a lot of mechanical pieces that it's a game that I appreciate what it's trying to do. I just have had this conversation with my son the other week when it came out. Like I can see what it is trying to do. I just am not able to get excited for it.
Yeah,
so
yeah, I had mentioned that last week too, or a couple weeks ago when I first started playing it. It wasn't really on my radar until I saw some videos and just kind of read some of the not reviews but just comments from people. I was just like, maybe I'll give it a try. So finally, I jumped into it. And yeah, I was like, wow, this is pretty good. It's still the one thing I don't like about the Harry Potter universe and stuff. Excuse me. I shouldn't say I don't like it. It kind of annoys me. It's like kind of the language they use for some of the stuff. Like it's some of the spells and stuff. It's like just say the word, just say fire. Like don't make up a word or say something that's kind of like they say Revelio, which makes you do that kind of like a reveal spell, like just kind of like the Batman sense where you kind of see the world around you and stuff pings out. Like just say reveal. Like come on, man. But that's just not the game either. That's kind of just been the whole thing with them. I just the terminology is just kind of weird to me and kind of off-putting. But
Gotta fancify it up there.
yeah, that's right.
Yep.
It's gotta get fancy. But and another thing too is like all the acting and stuff is really well done too. I don't think I mentioned that last week. It doesn't sound hokey or like Resident Evil-y, as I like to say sometimes. Like cheesy or anything like that. It's pretty well acted, so that's kind of nice also. But yeah, gonna keep on going with that one. So it looks like you just had one game that you've been. Well, I'm sure you've been playing something else, but one game that you got.
Yeah, I mean, if I really want to talk about what I've spent my time on, it's been a lot of mobile games. And not necessarily in like a satisfying type of way, right? Like, I think I spent a week with the new Tomb Raider mobile game, Tomb Raider Reloaded, which is
a new one out.
It's like a reskin of Archeo, or it's kind of Vampire Survivor-esque with a lot of microtransactions. But if you're playing it through Netflix, all your microtransactions are gone. So you're earning gems. You can't necessarily buy things. You're just kind of, but like that's satisfying up to a point, and then you realize like when you hit what normally would be the paywall in a microtransaction free-to-play game, and the only way to continue in it is to keep running the same level over and over again. Like it reveals the veil of microtransaction economy, right? Like, oh well, when you're playing it free to play, you see that price tag and you're like, well, I bet if I just keep playing, I can make it and I don't have to pay this. And then when there's not even the option of not paying or paying it, then you're like, oh, the only thing I can do is keep playing it and running the same things over and over again. And it's enjoyable, but over time, like I had the same experience with a game on Apple Arcade, a Star Trek kind of one of those where like it's a gacha game, right? You collect people and you battle them. But when there's not a paid mechanic, it really kind of reveals the thinness of that hamster wheel. So yes, I've been playing a number of different mobile games over the course of the week, but spent a lot of time. Finished up season 4 of my Madden League with some friends, and headed into season 5. Did the off season in the draft and hit a breaking glitch at the so the role of crabby old man gamer will be played by DBQ tonight. So what happened is in Madden 22, 23, you can have offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators that have skill trees, things like that, and you level those up, and they make small little bits of difference. It really doesn't seem to make huge differences, but you need them on your team. So come year 5 of our franchise, and both of us, I've been losing offensive coordinators every year because my offense scores a lot of points, and so they get hired as as they should, they get hired as a head coach someplace else.
Is this in the dynasty mode, or
in the franchise mode?
Okay.
Yep. But in the franchise mode, somehow there's a finite pool of coordinators. So by year 5, we've gone through all the coordinators and there's nobody left to hire. So we got through and into, we got to the start of the season and nobody could play their games, or nobody could play their games because they didn't have an offensive coordinator. And there's none to hire. So I spent my weekend when I would have been playing games researching how to fix this, and then setting up a new Microsoft profile and a new EA account in order to create a dummy person, a dummy account. To basically the fix is you have another person come into your league, fire a coach, and then repopulates the pool, so then somebody else can go back in and do this. So, and this is not looking through online. This is a glitch that happened in Madden 22, and there was never a fix. And really, this is the after the fact fix, and the now that you know that it exists, what we will have to do, because this is what the solution was, and from people through Reddit and EA, Madden help forums. Basically, at the end of a season, we fire our offensive coordinator and then rehire them, so that it counts as a transaction, so that the computer doesn't initiate a new transaction. Just jumping through hoops for the sake of trying to play a game. That yeah. So there's my crabby Madden moment of that. This, as fun as the game can be, it is so built upon a house of falling cards that year after year there's just code that doesn't work, or has been broken, but either doesn't have time to get fixed or is not in the design doc priority. So I say all that having played a lot of Madden, but it is just the game actively works against you between all of the franchise crashes that have happened with the server over the holiday season, the draft glitches that would reset and get people's franchises in a loop after getting through the draft and going back to round one of the draft. So they're just been, it's been a rough year. So yes, I spent a lot of time in the Madden headspace, and actually in the headspace of catching up on Destiny lore videos to get ready for next week, since I have not really played any Destiny since sometime this past summer. So and with Lightfall dropping this week, so I wanted to kind of catch back up on some videos and understand what's going on, and which was relatively easy to do, because things have happened, but in the shortcut, the pyramid ships, the darkness is now here. The Traveler just shot a thing of light out of it in the PlayStation State of Play trailer. And now the Traveler is not just above the tower, but over Earth, outside in orbit. So there we go. Now you're caught up. Let's find out what happens next.
Yeah, it's been long. I think last time I played was when I played with you guys that one time we played.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Last time I played. Yep. It's been a couple years. So
yes, more, hopefully better gaming experiences on the horizon, other than this week. So
a couple things with Madden real quick. So obviously you never saw this in the previous version, even though you said it looked like it was a known. So are you playing this one more than those previous versions, or this? Like I was wondering how you never saw this before.
Yeah, usually. Well, we would get to probably year 5 of a franchise and then restart. Pick 2 different teams. So, it seems like from what I've been reading online, we're hitting it sooner than others have. Like sometimes it sounds like some people have experienced it 20 years into a franchise that they've been simming. Some people have experienced it 8 years into a franchise. So we seem to be hitting it a little more. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be any real rhyme or reason to why it happens. And the fact that it continues to happen means that there probably is not an easy fix to it somewhere in that embedded. Yeah. So yeah, I guess we've been playing pretty consistently for the last 2 years. Have a variety of franchises, just move from one franchise to the other. Yeah. But in terms of Madden 23, I think we have been playing it more than 22 because we picked it up sooner in the season. So
and that stuff doesn't carry over, right, from game to game, like your franchises?
No, nope. No, why would they do that?
That makes so much sense.
They need you to buy another one. Does your prestige level carry over from Call of Duty to Call of Duty?
That's true. And
So
then, are these real people that they're using, or are they just made up? Like the
most of them are made
coordinators?
up. I mean, I think
Okay,
they start with real people. So like
the
there
real
are some
coordinators.
people, real coordinators that have been in there.
All right.
Um,
That's kind of weird because
depending depending on who's been licensed, I think is all part of it, right?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
and then they populate it with just like they populate head coaches with fake names of people as you go on through the years.
Yeah.
So
That just seems kind of weird to me because you figure if it was just random people that they're making up, then why can't they just do that forever?
right,
Like it doesn't make any sense.
why did they put a cap on that? Just it's an auto generator, and yeah.
Yeah, just keep spitting out random names and stats. So yeah, it's weird. All right, well, hopefully your Madden week goes a little bit better if you continue to play it this coming week. Anything else? Oh, actually, yeah, it looks like you did have one other game on there.
Yeah, I had another game on there. I'm gonna swap it out and just the other game that I did play some of was so end of the year talked about Crisis Core Final Fantasy Reunion, right? The Zack Final Fantasy remake from the PSP game. Played it on Switch. Really was enjoying it. This week I picked it up from my local library for PlayStation 5, just to kind of see the comparison, right? And it looks the battle animations look great. Battle, it looks very much in that kind of Final Fantasy VII remake aspect in terms of art assets. But then you get to the cutscenes, and you can tell those are old cutscenes, right? Like they upscaled them a little bit, but those are still some edgy polygons. So which I think is interesting because it is the same on the Switch, but when you're playing it handheld, it kind of hides some of that, right? Because it's a smaller screen, and so once you get it up there on the big screen and everything else is in 4K, it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, this is still a you know 2008 game or 2007, whenever it originally came out. So just another little observation there. So not a lot to talk about because I've talked about it before, but yeah, I've played some Crisis Core Final Fantasy Reunion on PlayStation 5 as well.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, that is the end of the show for tonight. Actually, we kept it just under 50 minutes, I think, tonight. So it was a quick one.
Speeding along.
Yeah, it's been long. We actually kind of cut it a little short, I think, just because we started a little late, too. So that's right. I mean, and I had some technical difficulties, of course, because one of us always has to on the E2KG.
Wouldn't be a show without it. So.
That's right. All right. Well, join us next week. We should be back, and it looks like Game Logic will be hosting, or will be the primary host for next week, and DB and I should be on that show. DB, thank you for joining me tonight. I am Taomaster99. Thank you, everybody, for watching, or in the future, if you're watching on the video on demand on the various platforms. Take care of yourselves out there, and we will see you next time.